Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very last week of October 2018.
Week before your birthday.
Oh, I
just think you probably totally forgot that, right?
I totally forgot about it, and I do have an announcement at the end about that anyway. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on today and this past week, and I want to get right to it because I have a lot of news here. And of course, one of the biggest things, I'm going to get to the shootings and the bombings and all that stuff in a moment, but I want to get to the so-called caravan from Honduras that has been traveling so many hundreds of kilometers and blah blah all the way across into Mexico now. Well, guess what? As we have already suspected, that according to embedded reporters, so already they're admitting there are people who are not immigrants in there, they are reporters, but these reporters say that there are people in this so-called caravan from Bangladesh, Haiti, the Congo, and Sri Lanka, to name just a few. And a second caravan of 2,000 migrants formed this past week and is starting to march towards Guatemala and also plans to reach the United States. But according to Univision, which is the Mexican Spanish language television network, their correspondence says that Bangladeshis joined the migrant caravan even before it crossed from Guatemala into Mexico. And this is especially a concern because Bangladesh is one of the largest Muslim populations in the world with a very high rate of Islamic terrorism and barbarism. And according to Judicial Watch, who also has a reporter embedded in Guatemala, he says there are migrants from Haiti, Congo, Sri Lanka, Angola, Cameroon, and Bangladesh. So a lot of African dicey people, coming.
I call it an army.
Well, it's not a caravan. No. It's an invasion force. Now, here's the interesting questions. The origin of the caravan, however, won't become clear until it's revealed who is coordinating the campaign. And according to some radio hosts, they're saying it looks organic, but it can't be organic because it has to be planned. So they're saying, for example, what are they eating? Where do they go to the bathroom? What are kids doing there without their parents?
These are all questions we were asking when we first heard about it, right?
So they say it could be that some very rich Democrat donors who want to embarrass the president are behind it. They said 7,000 people one day just decide to start walking to the United States for 2,000 miles. That doesn't just happen. No. That's coordinated. Of course, another possibility are drug cartels, which could be involved with that. And of course, there was no advance word of that this was going to happen. So 7,000 people just like, okay, we're ready. Like, took 5 minutes to it. I'm ready.
All of a sudden, we see this thing on the news, and there we are.
Okay, so they say we don't see pictures of where they're using the bathroom. We don't see pictures of them gathering or getting food and eating it. And we do see pictures of them chewing things, but we don't know how that happened. And we don't see porta potties. And we don't. Are they urinating in rivers and streams?
Maybe, if they're poor people.
But here's another very interesting telltale clue about what's going on. Because there was a video out of Mexico this week that shows an American trucking company using its flatbed trailers to carry hundreds of illegal alien migrants towards the U.S. border and illegal entry to the United States. And on the truck, you can very clearly see U.S. Department of Transportation ID numbers. So when this company was called via phone and asked why their trucks were in Mexico aiding and abetting illegal aliens to invade their country, do you know what they did?
Didn't answer.
They hung up.
Yeah.
So this American truck is being used to haul illegal aliens, and that is a violation of Department of Transportation rules and U.S. law. So that they should get the ID number and put that company out of business and arrest their owners, because that's treason. Which, by the way, as I mentioned many times, the punishment for treason is execution. Not that I like execution, but what they're doing harms all of our lives. Anyway, this is not a caravan, it's a military coordinated operation arranged from evil elements within the United States and Europe. Speaking of evil elements, going to your homeland, guess what's in Seattle?
What?
UN peacekeepers.
Oh my.
There have been many reports of people in Seattle identifying themselves as UN peacekeepers, and they are considered enemies on American soil.
Why?
And because why are there UN peacekeepers here? Keeping peace for who and what?
I don't know.
Yeah, for Hillary. And this was set in motion by guess who? Obama Nation. And you know what else is going on? Did you know there's a Brexit, Britain removing from the EU? You know. Well, did you know there's a Calexit?
California?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because I know various states have tried from time to time.
Yes, but this is a serious thing. There's a
Yeah.
press conference in Moscow which introduced Calexit and that it was opening an embassy in Moscow.
Seriously.
That's what they said. Seriously, it's like a California embassy. Like, where's Moscow anyway?
Well,
You know,
yeah, like
I'm
how do
so
they
sh-
find themselves there?
I'm so sure. Is there a mall there?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And so one of the people who is a spokesperson for Calexit is none other than Eric Holder, the Obama henchman from his time period. There's something called Kigali rules, which I had never heard of before.
Never heard of it.
But apparently it is from the United Nations, where it's a unilateral decision to what nations they decide are in peril so that they can invade them and save the people.
This is a
Which-
UN thing?
Yeah, which may be why there's UN troops in Seattle. Hitler used similar excuse when he invaded Czechoslovakia to help to protect the German-speaking people there. So okay, again, thanks to Obama, now the UN has proper requirements to enter the United States based mostly on its own judgment. And I'm sure President Trump will do everything powerful to reverse this. Now, the bomber.
Which one?
Well, the main one that was just arrested. None of the bombs were detonated.
You're talking about the ones that were put for the political people.
Yeah, and not only there was entertainers and other people, but the huge clue. There are several clues. First, we look at the mail bomb that was received at CNN in New York. Okay, there was clear packing tape to hold the addresses, and only one fingerprint, just that one person's fingerprint on it. The postage stamps were licked, but there was no DNA in the saliva. There is no postal code or date stamped on the envelope, so it never went through the service. There's no postage cancellation on the stamps, so it's like someone hand delivered it to all these people.
If it goes to the post office, it has to have all those things on
And
it.
when CNN showed the picture of the package of the bomb, there is a container of Clorox bleach hand wipes next to the bomb. But bleach can chemically react with explosives, so why would they do that? And static electricity can generate, even from countertops, could trigger an electrical bomb ignition component. So CNN would have to know that, and that they put it on the countertop with Clorox.
Right.
And interestingly, the pipe bomb was supposed to explode, so then why inside was there a photo of Trump and a handwritten note?
So in
If
other
it
words,
was
when you
going
open
to
it,
explode.
you open the package and it's going to explode.
Yeah, so you'd never see the picture or the note because you'd be dead.
Right.
So why would you put that in there except to frame somebody, knowing it would never explode and it would be open on the news would report this? Yes, very strange that it happens 2 weeks before the election, obviously staged. Now, originally they said there were 13 bombs, but now they say 14, but I've told you there are 14 Illuminati families. So it does make sense to me. And who did they arrest for this? But what they're calling a Trump-supporting, bodybuilding, Native American Florida strip club worker. That's a big
I think
description.
that's a lot of things that have happened for one person to have supposedly have done.
Okay, now his name is Cesar Altier Sayok, 56, and he was taken into custody in Plantation, Florida. Plantation, clue about slavery. See? And he said he's a member of the Seminole tribe. So let's understand this. He's an American Indian from the Seminole tribe, but he is a white supremacist.
I don't think so. That doesn't make sense.
Well, that's
right?
what they're saying.
No.
Doesn't make any sense to me either. And this Mr. Sayak said that he comes from he created a We Unconquered Seminole Tribe group. We Unconquered Seminole Tribe.
We as in small?
We, capital We. We, the tribe. But apparently, well, if you know history, that's not true, because the Spaniards did take over the Seminole tribe when they came to the Florida Peninsula. And so here he was, a loner, abandoned by his father, considered mentally ill by his mother, on steroids, a perfect programming patsy, in my opinion, because who's going to say anything? He's a Native American, white supremacist, bodybuilding, steroid-taking loner.
Then there's no way he could have done
Of course
everything
not.
that they claim he's
And
done.
how could all these packages be delivered unstamped?
Right. And simultaneously, right?
No,
It pretty well happened like one after the other.
And since we're on this topic, what happened just now is an update. There was a shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh. The synagogue was called Tree of Life Synagogue, but it also had another name next to Tree of Life, which was called Or La Simcha, which means literally light of happiness. But if you remember from the September class, that word or that term Or La Simcha refers to the coming of the political Messiah. So that's very significant.
There was a shooting there.
And it was a shooting by a man named Robert Bowers, 46 years old, a white supremacist who broke in while they were having services and saying all Jews must die. 8 people are dead, 6 people injured as of this taping, and 4 of those are policemen. So that story is developing, and probably next podcast we will have more news on that. Now going to an old story with new information. Many of you, all of you, must remember Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. They disappeared on a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing.
How many years ago was that?
That was
now?
March 8th, 2014, so
Wow.
4.5 years ago, with
Seems like
239 people on board. Now the French police are saying that the navigation data was hacked before it disappeared, and a passenger with skills to hack the communications unit was seated directly beneath it. And so if the data was changed or deleted, the recovery efforts would be looking in the wrong place. And it also states that there are inconsistencies in the Malaysian government report. And here's an interesting thing. A third entity could also have useful data and had manufacturing software that could hack the plane's SATCOM unit. And curious passengers that warranted further investigation, including a Malaysian aeronautics expert, were seated near the SATCOM. And if the SATCOM was hacked, data could be manipulated or deleted, and the plane could be someplace else. The French are also saying that there's other passengers of interest. One was an Iranian man who asked his Facebook friends to pray for him right before the flight, and 2 Ukrainians and an American with what they're calling atypical profiles. Now here's the very important thing, because it verifies what I have said about recent events there. Aviation expert Victor Ianello said if the SATCOM was tampered with to change the route, this would imply the wreckage found so far was planted, which is what I said. It had not been in the ocean. There was no moss on it, no seaweed. It looked like someone just plopped it there like 10 minutes before.
Which we've talked about that quite a bit, actually.
Now, there's a theory that the plane had been hijacked and was going to be used to attack the U.S. military base in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Attack with what? There's no, missiles on the plane.
Unless there were. Maybe somebody put them on there.
And the French airline director, Marc Dugan, said that he'd been warned by British intelligence that he was taking risks by investigating this story. And of course, so there is the theory that the aircraft was flown to Diego Garcia, which I told you. And the pilot or the hijacker, whoever it was, claimed that on the pilot's home flight simulator, there was a practice flight to that island. Hello? Why didn't the investigators go there?
I think that we've heard that before.
Yeah, so the plane was taken to Diego Garcia, and the debris was planted. We know all this story. But the question is why?
Well, France is still investigating it, and perhaps someday we will find out.
Same with TWA flight, the 700 that crashed near where we used to live, and that was also a story invented by the French police that they never finished. Anyway, going to your homeland again. Researchers have discovered an active fault line on Mount Hood that could potentially trigger a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, devastating communities and infrastructure as far west as Portland. How do they know it's 7.2 and not 7.1 or 7.3? 7.2. And they said south and southwest of Mount Hood and extending to the Columbia River is this fault line. Did you know about that?
Not that specific one.
And they said this would be a crustal earthquake as opposed to the Cascadia subduction zone, which is in the Pacific, which is Portland is waiting for that one. But the subduction zone quake are deeper below the surface. They last longer, as long as 7 minutes, but they are lower in amplitude. The kind of quake from Mount Hood would be shorter, 20 seconds to less than a minute, and would be strong enough to knock you off your feet. The Portland metro area would experience strong ground motions and could suffer liquefaction damage along waterfront areas. That's where the water mixes in with the ground, turns into quicksand, and everything sinks in. That's happened in other places. In addition to all this, the U.S. government scientists have classified 18 U.S. volcanoes as a very high threat. And because they're so close to people. Guess the top of the list is Hawaii's Kilauea volcano, which has been erupting. The other top 5 are Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, which you used to climb on, Alaska's Redoubt volcano, and California's Mount Shasta. And the experts have said that there have been 120 eruptions in the United States for volcanoes since 1980. Did you know that?
No.
120 since 1980.
Well, Alaska has a lot, and they have a lot of things going on up there all the time.
But 11 of the 18 very high threat volcanoes are in Oregon, Washington, and California.
Not even Alaska.
That's right. And it also said that Mount Rainier has the highest danger and hazard zone of over 300,000 people. I think it's more than that.
I would think so.
And did you know this? Flagstaff, Arizona is on the border of the large San Francisco volcanic field, which is a moderate threat level.
Did not know that.
Yes. And among those whose threat score are higher, again, in Alaska, Redoubt, Mount Okmok, Akutan Island, and Mount Spur. And Oregon's Newberry volcano, did you ever hear of that one? And Wyoming Yellowstone, we know about. Besides the top 5, the rest of the 18 are Mount Hood, Three Sisters, and Crater Lake in Oregon, Akutan Island, Makushan, Mount Spur, and Augustine in Alaska, Lassen and Long Valley in California, Mount Baker and Glacier Peak in Washington. Glacier Peak is up by the border, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. And Mauna Loa in Hawaii. Stay away from these volcanoes, people. And also worth note, my own personal opinion on this, and I've been saying this, keep your eye on Mount Diablo in San Francisco and Mammoth Lake, California volcano.
They already have problems with it getting very, very hot.
They're all very shaky.
And hot, and people see the fires coming.
Speaking of heat, or not, there's a small but growing number of scientists who say that the climate models predicting global temperature increase are wrong, and the Earth will soon face something dire, global cooling, which we are facing. It's right outside our window at this moment, isn't it? Now, here's a Russian scientist who lives in England. Not a good combo. Anyway, she's a climate scientist named Valentina Zhakova. She's an astrophysicist at Northumbria University in the United Kingdom. And her team of researchers say that based on mathematical model of the sun's magnetic activity, the Earth will experience decreasing magnetic waves over a 33-year period beginning in 2021. She says the reduced solar magnetic activity has been linked to historically cool periods in the Earth, such as the Maunder Minimum, which we've talked about before,
Me too.
which had produced a mini ice age that occurred from 1645 to 1715. But it caused in London what they called frost fairs on the Thames River, where they just used to put fairs up on the ice. They also said during this time period in the 1600s, the Bosporus, that's in Turkey, Istanbul, and the Baltic were so thick people could walk from one side to the other. Imagine that in Istanbul. Zakova says her model is 97% accurate.
Wow.
Yes. So here's another little bit of detail where they're saying there's so much CO2 in the atmosphere and blah, blah, right? Well, let me tell you something. There's less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now than in ancient times. And there are other carbon dioxide factors that have nothing to do with humans. It involves the ocean water, rocks that are exposed to the air, and plants, not humans. So science is telling a BS story to people. Now, there was a good successful experiment. This is an interesting, good one, in Dubai, of all places. And guess who did it? Believe it or not, the Chinese. They managed to develop a specific strain of rice that grows in salt water. See? And it yields more rice than fresh water.
Maybe it's made with seaweed.
Or maybe with red bread.
Seaweed.
Make salt wawa. Anyway, the mice... Well, there's mice in the rice.
There are.
Yes, the modified rice yields 7.8 tons of food per hectare versus the global average of 3.3 tons. So it's more than double.
I would wonder what the nutritional content
And
of that
they
rice
said
is.
in China, there's over 386,000 square miles that is currently unused. But if just 1/10 of that salty land were used, it could feed over 200 million people. That's a lot of takeout. You know, I think it's a great idea, even if it is from China. You know, every once in a while they come up with something good. I love their food anyway. Now, have you heard of the voice of God? And I'm not talking about religion.
What is it?
Apparently it's a weapon that this Dr. Robert Duncan said he helped to develop for the Army, U.S., and it was used, supposing the Iraq War, beaming Allah's voices into the heads of Iraqi soldiers, telling them to drop their weapons. Remember I reported that they all dropped their weapons. And Dr. Duncan tells us that they followed Allah's command, not knowing they were coming from the United States military. And also I told you at the time, the U.S. dropped pamphlets in Arabic on Iraq that said, resistance is futile.
I remember that.
Yes. And this is also related to voice-to-skull technology called V2K.
I think we've talked about that.
Yes. But what we haven't talked about is a new plasma crowd control weapon that is can shout at people. It's developed by the United States Marine Corps. From 3,000 feet away, it can be turned up to temporarily blind people and blast them so hard that it could melt people's skin off of them, causing them instant death.
That's horrible.
Isn't that lovely?
It's horrible.
It's called the Scalable Compact Ultra Short Pulse Laser System, or SCUPLS. It's mounted on a truck or tank, and I've actually seen pictures of it a couple of years ago. At the lowest setting, the weapon can produce speech in your head and can warn people up to 1,000 meters away by delivering a voice message in their mind. At the highest setting of the current model, it will let loose full scalable thermal ablative effects, even through your clothing, at a minimum distance of 100 meters, which would painfully vaporize the outer layer of skin, but instead of burning it, it will turn your skin into gas.
It's horrible.
Yes, isn't that lovely what our scientists for America are doing? And anyway, I just want to give a message from Duncan Cameron. He asked you to please continue the help. It's going very well. The GoFundMe, he's doing much better. I just spoke to him the other day. He sounds like old Duncan again. Very happy to hear. I thank you also for your condolences about Elke, and we may have new animal friends coming. I also want to talk about the winter quickly. Look at a map of Alaska, the Gulf of Alaska. There's this big, it's called the blob. The scientists are calling it the blob. It happens every now and then. It's a big area of warm water that formed, combined with El Nino Modakai. There's El Nino, which means that warm water forms on the west coast of South America and causes warm air to go north to Europe and North America. This is El Nino Modakai, which means the warm water forms in the middle of the Pacific, and cold water is on either side, and that forces the Gulf of Alaska to get warm, which I just told you about, and that forces the cold air from the Arctic to flow over this dome and come down, guess where?
Michigan?
In the eastern part of the United States towards the Great Lakes and East Coast, bringing heavy snow and brutal cold. And that's what we will be expecting. And since you mentioned my birthday, I just was fooling around online looking, what are my two favorite things? Vodka and red wine, right? Look, I know you don't like it. I know you don't like it. To drink.
I was one of your
To drink. Okay? And so I found this company, it's called Hangar One, and they have a product that mixes vodka with rosé. Oh my God. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I have just a couple of stories.
Only a couple.
Only a couple.
You're a couple.
I wanted to talk about Brett Kavanaugh. Remember all the issue that went around with him, and that he is now a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. Well, apparently there is a coven of New York witches.
I've heard of it.
Who are placing a hex on him, and they're calling their event of casting the spell, making this hex, an act of resistance and resilience.
That sounds brilliant. You know, they must be brilliant people because they're witches.
Anyway, a Catholic priest and exorcist in California, Father Gary Thomas, planned to counter the spell by saying prayers for the justice at Mass. It's kind of like the kettle calling the other.
It's like neutralizing each other.
He says, this is conjuring of evil, not about free speech, he said. Now, the owner, one of the co-owners of the bookstore, said that they were not going to share details or specifics of the spells, but said that they were aimed at exposing Brett Kavanaugh for what he truly is, to cause him harm and see him undone.
Because they decided they're God.
Apparently. So anyway, I just think it's really bad what they're doing. And apparently,
it will come back on them.
Yes, apparently last year, the same bookstore hosted 3 consecutive rituals to hex Trump. And then she goes on to say, we have experienced a pretty severe amount of backlash in the form of hate mail and death threats.
Good.
But she claims that what they did, the previous rituals against Trump, have proved successful.
Really? I don't see it.
But she doesn't say exactly how. And
because
then
it isn't.
She goes on to say witchcraft is a practice, not a religion.
It's satanic and astral.
And speaking of satanic, in Central Florida, 2 young girls, ages 11 and 12, claimed to be Satan worshippers and planned to murder 15 classmates. Isn't that horrible?
Where are their mothers?
I thought about that. Apparently these girls, 11 and 12, were hiding in a bathroom waiting for smaller students to walk in so they could kill them and leave body parts at the entrance.
Where's the school security?
Well, apparently his middle school resource office caught wind of the girls' intentions, thank God.
Of course, it's in Florida. Where else would it be?
They called one of the girls' mothers, who said that she had dropped her daughter off, so when the school looked for the daughter, they found her hiding in this restroom, and apparently both she and this other young girl had been consuming alcoholic beverages. So again, how did they get that, right?
Where is the schools? I thought schools have security now.
Yeah. Then they were hiding with a goblet in the washroom. The girls were escorted to the principal's office, where they both confessed to the plan. They were both armed with cutlery, including a butcher's knife and a pizza cutter. They claimed they were practicing Satanists, and they made comments that they were willing to drink blood and eat flesh. The girls are charged with conspiracy to commit murder, weapon possession, disruption of school functions. So,
and are they going into a mental institution permanently?
we don't know what's going to happen with them. But I mean, again, horrible things that people are
And
doing
their parents
here.
should be beaten to crap.
Oh, terrible. And then I wanted to go. I have another story. To me, it's all about this, horrible sexual stuff that they're trying to put forward and normalize everything, right? So I think it's been a couple of weeks where I talked about one of the Beatles, can't remember which one, they were masturbating with their friends, right?
Yes, right.
And then we had all this Me Too movement where they were saying that these celebrities were masturbating
That's where
in
that
front
song,
of
"I Need a
them.
Little Help from My Friends," that's where it comes from.
So anyway, Louis C.K., who is a comedian, apparently had masturbated in front of Laura Silverman.
Yeah, I heard that story.
Okay, well...
Why would she even go on the news with that?
Well-
Why is that a news story?
Okay, you're jumping ahead here. Laura Silverman complained about it, okay? But her sister, Sarah Silverman...
Oh, there's two Silvermans.
Yes, so it's before you jump ahead of yourself.
Sarah and...
And Laura. Laura was the one who said she was harassed. Her sister, Sarah, claims that Louis C.K. masturbated in front of her several times, but with her consent. So, therefore, she went on the show to say to people that we were kids and we were peers and we were equals. And he asked if he could do it in front of me. I just said, F yes, I'd like to see that. And it was amazing. So, I'm just telling you that they're trying to normalize this kind of behavior.
Okay, if a man said to you they want to do, what would you say to him?
I think he'd be on the floor, and I would be like, there would be nothing left of him.
I'll take care of that for you, but not with a sharp object.
Yeah, so I'm just telling you, so they're trying to make all this seem normal. So the more they talk about it, and that's why I tell you these kind of stories, because, first of all, it's like, oh, wow, and then after a while, you've heard so many of them, you don't even care.
But I don't know why this is even on the news. Why is this story on news?
I'm telling you why. Because they want to make it normal.
What did he say? Like, if this is about him, I'd be mortified.
Well, he's trying to make a comeback in the comedy routines.
And that's going to help?
It reminded me of the Pee Wee Herman stories. Remember him?
I love Pee Wee Herman.
Well, he was caught masturbating in a theater.
Well, it was a porno movie. What do you expect?
And therefore, then he made his comeback, and he was for little kids, so to speak. So we have Mr. Rogers, we have all kinds of things going on.
Don't you talk about Mr. Rogers.
Who apparently did a lot of bad things. So my point is...
It was a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
The more they talk about it, the more they go, okay, I don't want to hear about it anymore. It becomes normal. That's how they normalize stuff. So anyway, I think it's disgusting, but that's what I want to tell you.
The whole world is getting disgusting.
So again, you want to do our work so that you control your own mind. Nobody controls it for you. Hyperspace Helper, Hyperspace Plus, Healing Archetypes and Symbols are all very popular. They can fit in one envelope.
And so can I.
Anyway, so think about that. And of course, Universal Law, this is one of the best foundational books. We have that along with this one. If you're not familiar with our work, get familiar. Just don't start making comments, please. And then use some of those things that will actually help you. And of course, we have starting up again another session of our self-healing
It's a
group
really
webinar.
good one.
It's
I love
excellent.
this session.
It's called Affirming You. And I think right now we're talking about mother and father issues, foundational issues, abandonment issues, financial issues, how everything is tied together, and what you can do about it. So we have a couple spaces still open for November. So if you're interested...
And I'll actually be here the whole month of November, as far as I know.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So anyway, please like, comment, and share our page. And our Facebook page, same thing. Please like, comment, and share. Let's get the word out about Hyperspace Oversoul material. And remember, we do not do Q&A on YouTube or Facebook. We
just do Q.
Yeah. So therefore, you need to please get a membership for our site, less than $1 a day, and then you can get your general questions answered.
And I just want to plug myself a little bit.
Why do you want to plug? Like here?
Well,
plug it up? Mm-hmm.
I'll show you later if you give permission to show you.
No.
In December, I have been invited to speak at an international medical conference in Havana, and I'm very excited about going there. It's a very big honor. And if any of you can get to Havana and attend the conference, that would be great.
Is it open to the public?
It's open to the public, but only medical people are speaking at the... And I'll be meeting with Muriel Castro privately, and it's going to be quite a lovely time. In March, I will be going to Ecuador. Possibility, I've also been invited to Bolivia again, but we'll see.
You missed our January class.
I thought you mentioned it, no?
No.
Oh, January is very important.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if you thought September was amazing, January will just put you past Pluto.
Yeah, and those of you who missed September who want to come to January, we're going to have like
Review.
a little bit of review and kind of build on that a
I'll
bit.
give you what you need to know.
So you don't feel like you've missed out too much. You know, you won't get everything, but you'll get some basics.
I'll show you everything you want to see. With
Then
your
in
permission.
March, you go to Ecuador. Is that correct?
And possibly Bolivia. And then June, July, which might as well say, I think we've settled on Romania, Bulgaria, and then Italy.
Yeah, the end of June, first part of July. We're still working on our dates. We will not have those confirmed until
After
around
January.
the first of the year. But we'll be looking at that. Well, we're still looking at it as we're working everything else out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that said, we will see you. And again, thank you for all your kindness and supporting Stuart and I in the
And
work and
as-
research that we do.
And in advance for my birthday gifts. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.